I remember the air that morning, crisp, cool, alive with possibility. It was the kind of day that begged for something big, something unforgettable. I'd spent weeks planning it, you know? The proposal. My hands trembled as I slipped the little velvet box into my coat pocket, the ring inside glinting like a promise I'd waited years to make. 5 years with her, Clara, 5 years of laughter, quiet nights, and dreams we'd whispered under the stars. She was my everything. My heart raced as I pictured it, down on one knee, her eyes wide, that smile I'd fallen for breaking across her face. Tomorrow, I told myself. Tomorrow, she'd be mine forever. I decided to surprise her that afternoon. Bring her coffee, steal a kiss, maybe drop a hint just to see her squirm with excitement. I'd taken the day off work, told my boss I needed personal time, and he'd winked like he knew. Maybe he did. The cafe near her office made her favorite hazelnut latte, extra foam, and I hummed to myself as I carried it across town, the cup warm in my hands. Life felt good. Perfect, even. Her office was quiet when I arrived. Too quiet. The receptionist barely glanced up, said Clara had stepped out for lunch. Odd, I thought. She hadn't mentioned that. My phone buzzed then, a text from her. Running late tonight, don't wait up. I frowned. She'd been running late, a lot lately. Meetings, she'd said. Projects. I trusted her. Why wouldn't I? But something gnawed at me, a tiny splinter of doubt I couldn't shake. I should have gone home. I should have listened to the voice telling me to drop the coffee and leave. But I didn't. Instead, I waited, across the street, half hidden by a newsstand, sipping my own drink as the minutes ticked by. And then I saw her. Clara. My Clara, stepping out of a sleek black car I didn't recognize, her hair tumbling loose, her laugh floating through the air. She wasn't alone. A man climbed out after her, tall, sharp-suited, his hand brushing her arm like it belonged there. My stomach twisted. The coffee slipped from my grip, splashing across the pavement. I couldn't breathe. I stood there frozen, my shoes soaked in coffee, my chest tight, like the world had tilted, and I was the only one still standing upright. Clara laughed again, that sound I'd always loved, but now it sliced through me. The man leaned closer, whispered something. She nodded, her hand lingering on his sleeve. I knew that gesture. I'd seen it 1,000 times when she'd touch my arm, reassuring, affectionate. But this wasn't me. This wasn't us. I told myself to walk away, to breathe, to think. But my feet wouldn't move. My eyes wouldn't blink. I watched them disappear into a restaurant, some upscale place with dim lights and velvet curtains, the kind we'd never gone to because she said she preferred cozy diners. Lies. How many lies had there been? My mind raced, rewinding months, years, every late night, every vague excuse. Had I been blind? Or just stupid? Then my phone buzzed again. Another text from her. Love you. See you later. Love you. The words burned. I wanted to scream, to smash the screen and watch it shatter like my insides already had. Instead, I laughed, a short, bitter sound that startled the old man at the newsstand. He glared at me, but I didn't care. Love you. She typed that while standing next to him. I don't know how long I stayed there, minutes, maybe an hour, watching the restaurant's entrance like some pathetic ghost. But then something shifted. A delivery truck pulled up, and a kid hopped out carrying a bouquet of roses. Red roses. My roses. I'd ordered them last week, paid extra for same-day delivery to her office, a little teaser for tomorrow's proposal. The kid marched right into that restaurant, flowers in hand. My flowers. For her. And him. The roses vanished behind those velvet curtains, and I felt it, a snap, deep inside, like a wire stretched too thin finally breaking. Those were my roses, my gesture, my heart, now handed over to a moment that didn't belong to me. I could see it in my head, Clara's eyes lighting up, her fingers brushing the petals, that man smirking like he'd won something. Won her. My throat tightened, my hands clenched into fists so hard my nails dug into my palms. I didn't feel the pain. Not yet. I should have stormed in, yanked the flowers back, demanded answers, made a scene. But I didn't. I turned away instead, walked fast, head down, the city blurring around me. I needed air. Space. Something to stop the roaring in my ears. I ended up at the park, our park, where we'd picnicked last summer, where I'd first told her I loved her. The bench was still there, initials scratched into the wood. C+M, Clara and me. I sat, staring at those letters, and the ache turned cold, sharp, like ice settling into my bones. That's when it hit me. Tomorrow was supposed to be perfect. The proposal, the ring, the future. But now? Now it was ruined, tainted, mocked by her betrayal. I pulled the velvet box from my pocket, flipped it open. The ring sparkled, innocent and cruel. I'd spent months saving for it, every overtime shift, every skipped night out. For her. And she'd been laughing with him, touching him, while I'd been dreaming of forever. I snapped the box shut. No more dreaming. No more waiting. She'd made her choice, and now I'd make mine. Revenge wasn't a word I'd ever liked before. It felt petty, small. But sitting there, on that bench, with our initials mocking me, it didn't feel small anymore. It felt right. Cold, yes. Cruel, maybe. But right. The park faded behind me as I walked home, each step heavier, each breath sharper, like I was dragging a weight I couldn't see. The ring box stayed in my pocket, a cold lump against my side, taunting me with every move. I didn't look at it again. I couldn't. Not yet. The sun dipped low, painting the sky in streaks of orange and red, colors that should have felt warm, alive. But all I saw was fire. Burning. Consuming. That's what I wanted, to burn it all down, her lies, her smiles, her him. When I got to our apartment, the silence hit me hard. Her shoes weren't by the door, usually scattered, a little mess I'd tease her about. Her coat wasn't on the rack. Empty. The place felt empty without her, but it wasn't the kind of empty that ached with longing. It was the kind that whispered truth. She'd been slipping away for a while, and I'd been too foolish to notice. I dropped my keys on the counter clink, and the sound echoed, sharp, like a gunshot in my head. I poured a glass of water, hands shaking, and stood there, staring at the sink, the dishes we'd washed together last night. She'd laughed then, flicked soap suds at me, called me her rock. Her rock. What a joke. I gripped the glass tighter, too tight, and it shattered in my hand. Water splashed everywhere. A shard nicked my finger, a thin line of blood blooming red. I didn't flinch. I watched it drip, slow and steady, onto the counter. Red like those roses. Red like the rage curling inside me. That's when the idea came, and not loud or sudden, but quiet, creeping, like a shadow sliding across the floor. Revenge. Not some petty outburst, yelling, throwing things, begging her to explain. No. Something bigger. Something she'd never see coming. Something that would hurt her the way she'd hurt me. Deep, permanent, cold. I wiped the blood on my sleeve, grabbed a towel to clean the mess, and sat at the kitchen table. My mind raced, but my heart slowed, calm now, focused. I needed a plan. First, I checked my phone. Her last text, "Love you. See you later," glowed on the screen, mocking me. I didn't reply. Let her wonder. Let her squirm. I scrolled through her messages instead, weeks of them, bland little updates about work, dinners, miss you notes that now read like scripts. How long had she been playing me? I tossed the phone aside and pulled out my laptop. Time to dig. Her social media was a start, nothing obvious, just photos of us, smiling, captions about date nights, and best guy ever. Lies layered on lies. But then I noticed something, a name, tagged in a group shot from a work event last month. Ethan Carter. No face, just a tag, but it stuck with me. I searched him online, LinkedIn, first. There he was, tall, sharp-suited, a smug grin in his profile pic. Marketing exec at her company. My gut twisted. He matched the man from the car, the one with his hand on her arm. I kept digging. Ex-posts, public pages, anything. Found him again. A photo from 2 weeks ago, a rooftop bar, his arm around a woman whose face was cropped out. But I'd know that hair anywhere. Clara's curls, tumbling loose. My Clara. The pieces clicked, too fast, too loud. Work trips. Late nights. That conference she'd gone to last month, the one she'd barely talked about. I trusted her, God. I trusted her, and she'd been building something else, something with him. My hands curled into fists again, but I didn't hit anything. I breathed, slow, deliberate. Anger wouldn't help me now. I needed control. That's when the doorbell rang sharp, unexpected, slicing through the quiet. I froze. Who? I opened the door, and there stood the delivery kid from earlier, holding a crumpled bouquet of roses. Sir? These got returned, wrong address or something. You're the name on the order, right? He thrust them at me, red petals drooping, some crushed, like they'd been tossed aside. My roses. Rejected. I took them, nodded, shut the door without a word. The kid didn't matter. The roses did. They were a sign, a push. I set them on the table, staring at the mess of thorns and velvet ribbons. She'd sent them back, or he had. Didn't matter. They were mine again, and so was this moment. I grabbed a notebook, started writing fast, messy, ideas spilling out. Step 1. Keep her in the dark. She thought I'd propose tomorrow. Let her think that. Let her dress up, smile, play her part. Step 2. Turn it against her. Not a ring, not a vow, but something else, something she'd never forget. I remembered a story she'd told me once about her old boss, a guy who'd humiliated her in a meeting, made her cry. She'd said the worst thing wasn't the words, but the audience, everyone watching, laughing. Public shame. That stuck with me. Clara hated being exposed, hated losing control. Perfect. I'd give her an audience, not just him, but everyone. Her friends, her family, her precious little world. I'd rip it apart, piece by piece, and I'd do it tomorrow. The phone buzzed again, her this time, calling. I let it ring, once, twice, 3 times, then silenced it. She'd be home soon, expecting me to be waiting, oblivious. I wouldn't be. I grabbed my coat, the ring box, the roses, and left, headed to a bar across town, one she'd never find me in. I needed space to think, to refine this. The bartender slid me a whiskey. I sipped it slow, the burn matching the fire in my chest. I wasn't the man she'd left this morning, not anymore. That man was gone, shattered with that glass in the sink. This man was colder, sharper, ready. A guy at the bar leaned over, slurring. Rough day, huh? I didn't answer, just stared at the roses on the counter, petals falling one by one. Rough didn't cover it. Betrayed. Gutted. Remade. Tomorrow, she'd see. Tomorrow, he'd see. I finished the drink, left a tip, and stepped into the night. Ring in my pocket, plan in my mind, revenge in my blood. The bar's neon glow faded behind me as I stepped into the night, air biting my face, whiskey still warm in my throat. I walked fast, hands shoved deep in my pockets, the ring box digging into my hip like a splinter I couldn't pull out. The roses were gone, left on the bar counter, a wilted heap for someone else to deal with. I didn't need them anymore. They'd served their purpose, a slap of reality, a spark for what came next. My breath puffed out in white clouds, quick, sharp, like my thoughts. Clara didn't know. She couldn't. And that was my edge. Back at the apartment, I slipped in quiet, lights off, keys silent on the hook. Her shoes were there now, tossed by the door, her coat slung over the couch. She was home. I heard her humming soft, careless, from the bedroom. That sound used to melt me, used to mean safety, love. Now it grated, like nails on a chalkboard. I stood in the shadowed hallway, watching her silhouette move, brushing her hair, slipping into pajamas. She hadn't noticed me yet. Good. Let her think I'd been waiting, pining, the same old fool she'd played. Hey, you're back. Her voice floated out, bright, warm, a lie wrapped in honey. She stepped into the hall, smiled that smile, the one I'd once built my world around. I texted you. Where'd you go? I forced my lips to curve, slow, stiff, a mask sliding into place. Out, I said, voice flat but steady. Needed air. Her brow creased, concern. Maybe, but she didn't push. She never did when she thought she'd won. Well, I'm beat. Work was crazy. Night, okay. She leaned in, kissed my cheek, quick, routine, and turned away. I didn't move, didn't flinch. Just watched her go, the scent of her perfume, his car, his touch, lingering like a ghost. Sleep didn't come that night. I sat at the kitchen table, notebook open, pen in hand, mapping it out. Tomorrow was the day I'd meant to propose. She'd expect something big. I'd give her bigger. I'd booked the restaurant weeks ago, our spot, a little Italian place downtown, all exposed brick and candlelight. She loved it there, loved the attention, the way people noticed her. Perfect. I'd invite her friends, ours, really, her sister, her cousin, a few coworkers she bragged to. I'd say it was a surprise party, half true. They'd come, all smiles, expecting romance. They'd get a reckoning instead. I wrote names, 10 people, easy to gather on short notice. I'd call them tomorrow, early, play the excited fiancé, big news, don't tell Clara. They buy it. They always did. Next, the props, the ring, of course, but more. I needed evidence, something undeniable, something to shove in her face and theirs. My laptop glowed in the dark. I pulled up Ethan Carter's profile again, scrolled his posts, his smug little updates. Then I stopped, froze. A photo, posted an hour ago. Him at that rooftop bar again, glass raised, captioned, to good company and better nights. Her arm, just her arm, visible in the frame, bracelet glinting. My bracelet. I'd given it to her last Christmas, engraved with our initials. She'd worn it tonight, while I'd been drowning in whiskey and thorns. My jaw clenched, teeth grinding until I tasted blood. She'd come home humming, kissed me, lied to my face, and she'd been with him. The photo wasn't enough, not public, not yet, but it was fuel. I screenshotted it, saved it, let it burn into me. I'd find more texts, emails, something concrete. I logged into our shared cloud account. She never changed the password, never thought I'd check. And there it was, a folder, buried deep, labeled work stuff. Photos, dozens, her and Ethan, laughing, posing, arms around each other. Hotel lobbies, beaches, dates. My hand shook as I clicked through, each one a knife, each one a brick in the wall I'd build around her tomorrow. Then the phone rang, shrill, jarring, cutting through the silence. I jumped to heart slamming, glanced at the screen. Unknown number. 2:13 a.m. Who? I answered, voice low. Yeah. Static crackled, then a man's voice, slurred, thick. You Matt? Clara's Matt. I stiffened. Who's this? A laugh, wet, sloppy, came through. Doesn't matter, man. Just, heads up. She's not who you think. Check her purse, left pocket. Night. Click. Gone. I sat there, breath held, phone still pressed to my ear. A drunk prank? A trap? Or truth? Her purse sat on the counter, black leather, unzipped, innocent. I hesitated, fingers hovering, then reached in. Left pocket. Lipstick. Receipts. And then, a folded note, edges worn. I pulled it out, unfolded it slow. Her handwriting. Ethan, Friday, 8 p.m., usual spot. Don't tell him. Me. Friday tonight. My vision blurred. Rage. Yes, but something colder too. Clarity. Whoever called, they'd handed me gold. I tucked the note back, exact same spot, left the purse untouched. She'd never know I'd seen it. Not until it was too late. The clock ticked, 3 a.m. now. I leaned back, notebook full, plan sharp. Morning would come fast. I'd play my part, cheerful, oblivious, the man she thought she knew. I'd call her friends, set the stage, let her dress up for her big night. But the ring wouldn't mean what she expected. The words wouldn't either. I'd stand there, crowd watching, hold up that note, those photos, her betrayal in my hands. I'd ask her to explain to him, to them, to me, while her perfect little world crumbled. Cruel? Yes. Cold? Absolutely. Deserved? More than she'd ever know. I stood, legs steady now, poured another glass of water, drank it slow. No more breaking things. No more weakness. The mask was on tight, flawless, and I'd wear it until the moment it dropped. Tomorrow wasn't a proposal anymore. It was a trap, hers, not mine. I turned off the light, lay on the couch, eyes open, mind racing, waiting for dawn. She slept down the hall, dreaming of him. Maybe. Let her dream. It'd be the last peaceful night she'd have for a long, long time. Morning crept in, gray, sluggish, the kind of light that makes everything feel heavier. I didn't sleep, not a wink, but I didn't need to. Adrenaline hummed through me, steady and cold, like a current pulling me forward. Clara shuffled out of the bedroom, hair messy, eyes half open, yawning as she poured coffee. You're up early, she mumbled, glancing at me over the rim of her mug. I nodded short, sharp, kept my face blank. Couldn't sleep, I said, voice even, practiced. She smiled small, distracted, and didn't push. Good. Let her stay comfortable, cozy in her lies. I waited till she left, showered, dressed, off to work, with a quick peck on my forehead. The door clicked shut. Silence settled. Showtime. I grabbed my phone, started the calls, her sister first. Hey, Lisa, big surprise tonight for Clara, 7 p.m. at Rossi's. Don't tell her. Lisa squealed, excited, clueless, promised to be there. Next, her cousin Mark, same story, same grin in his voice. Then friends Jen, Paul, Tara, all giggling, swearing secrecy. 10 people total, locked in. I texted the restaurant, confirmed the reservation, added a private corner table. Perfect. They'd all see. Next, the props. I printed the photos from the cloud, crisp and damning. Clara and Ethan, smirking, tangled in moments she'd hidden from me. The note from her purse, Ethan, Friday, 8 p.m., usual spot. Don't tell him. I photocopied it, kept the original safe. Evidence stacked neat on the table, a little pile of her ruin. The ring stayed in its box, polished, ready not for her finger, but for the punchline. I rehearsed it in my head, calm, cutting. Clara, I was going to ask you something tonight. But first, explain this. I'd hold up the note, the photos, let her stammer, let them gasp. Cold. Cruel. Right. The day dragged, slow, deliberate, like time itself wanted to test me. I cleaned the apartment, scrubbed counters, folded laundry, kept my hands busy, my mind sharp. She texted at noon. Busy day, might be late again. Love you. Love you. My lip curled. Disgust, not a smile. I typed back. No rush. See you at home. Got a surprise tonight. Let her wonder. Let her primp and preen, thinking it's all for her. I pictured her now, laughing with him, maybe planning her next lie. The thought fueled me, kept the ice in my veins from melting. Then, knock, knock. The door jolted me. I frowned. Nobody expected, opened it slow. A woman stood there, mid-30s, sharp-eyed, coat too nice for this building. Matt? She asked, voice clipped. I nodded, wary. Who are you? She didn't smile. Name's Rachel. I work with Clara and Ethan. My stomach dropped fast, hard. She knew. How? Can I come in? She said, already stepping past me. I didn't stop her, couldn't, shock-locking my legs. She sat, uninvited, crossed her arms. I'll be quick. Ethan's my ex, divorced last year. Messy, ugly. He's been bragging about Clara, your Clara, for months. Thought you should know. Her words hit like punches, short, brutal. Bragging. I rasped, throat dry. She nodded, tight, angry. Yeah, says she's his now, that you're clueless. I saw them last night, rooftop bar. He was drunk, loud. I called you late. Figured it was you. The unknown number, 2:13 a.m., her. I stared, mind spinning. Why tell me? She shrugged, bitter. Hate him. Hate her too now. You deserve better. I sank into a chair, head pounding, her words sinking in. Months. Months of this. Him gloating, her slipping away. Rachel pulled a USB drive from her pocket, slid it across the table. Proof, she said. Emails, his work account. Photos he sent me. To rub it in, I guess. Use it or don't. Your call. She stood, brisk, headed for the door. Wait, I croaked. She paused, half-turned. Tonight, I said, voice low. I'm ending it, publicly. You want in? Her eyes narrowed, then glinted, hard. Rossi's, 7 p.m.? I nodded. I'll be there, she said, and left, door slamming like a gavel. I plugged the USB in, hand steady now, clicked through. Emails, dozens. Ethan to Clara, Clara to Ethan. Missed you last night. M's out late, come over? He's so predictable, won't suspect a thing. Photos, selfies, dinners, her in his car. My car. Our car. Once, her laughing as he drove. My fists clenched, knuckles white, but I didn't break. I copied it all, added it to my stack. Rachel's gift was dynamite. I'd light the fuse tonight. 6 p.m. hit. I dressed slow, careful. Black shirt, dark jacket, funeral colors, fitting. The ring box went in my pocket. The evidence, photos, note, USB, into a slim folder. I looked in the mirror, eyes hollow, jaw set. Not the man she'd left this morning. Not the man she'd ever known. I texted her. Meet me at Rossi's, 7 p.m. surprise. She replied, fast. Ooh, fancy. On my way. Clueless. Perfect. I got there early, 6:45. Watched the guests trickle in. Lisa, Mark, Jen, grinning, whispering, sipping wine. The table glowed, candles flickering, plates set. Rachel arrived, last, nodded at me from across the room, her face a mask of quiet fury. Then Clara walked in, 7:02. Hair swept up, dress shimmering, smile wide. Matt, she called, waving, radiant fake. The room turned, head swiveling, friends beaming. I stood, slow, folder in hand, ring box heavy. Clara, I said, voice clear, cold, cutting through the chatter. Glad you're here. I've got something to say. Her smile faltered, just a flicker, but she stepped closer, eyes bright. Oh, she said, playful. The crowd hushed, watching, waiting. I held up the folder, let it hang there, then opened it slow. 5 years. I started, loud enough for all to hear. I thought it meant something. Guess I was wrong. Her face shifted, confusion, then dread, as I pulled out the first photo. Her and Ethan, laughing, his arm around her. Gasps, soft, sharp, rippled through the room. Showtime. The photo trembled in my hand, not from fear, but from the weight of every eye on me. Clara's face drained, pale, stark, her lips parting in a silent gasp. Matt? She whispered, voice thin, cracking. I didn't stop. Couldn't. I slid the next photo out. Her and Ethan on a beach, her hair whipping in the wind, his hand on her waist. Recognize this? I asked, cold, steady, tossing it onto the table. It landed with a soft thud. Gasps turned to murmurs. Lisa, her sister, stood. What's going on? But I ignored her, locked on Clara. You said love you this morning. I continued, voice rising, cutting. Was that before or after you met him last night? I pulled the note. Her handwriting, undeniable, held it high. Ethan, Friday, 8 p.m., usual spot. Don't tell em. Her eyes widened, panic flaring, but she didn't speak. Couldn't. The room spun, friends shifting, muttering, Jen whispering, no way. I dropped the note, let it flutter down, then turned to Rachel. You've got something too, right? Rachel stepped forward, chin up, eyes blazing, plugged the USB into a phone, handed it to me. I opened it, projected the first email onto the wall with the restaurant's little screen. He's so predictable, won't suspect a thing. Clara's words, hers to Ethan, glowing huge, ugly. A choke escaped her, half sob, half gasp. Matt, stop, she pleaded, hands reaching. I stepped back, ice in my veins. Stop, I barked, sharp, bitter. You stopped us. 5 years gone for him. The crowd erupted, Lisa yelling, Clara, what is this? Mark grabbing her arm, pulling her back. Clara's knees buckled. She sank into a chair, hands over her face, murmuring, I'm sorry, too late. I held up the ring box, slow, let it catch the light. This was for you. I said, quiet now, deadly. Tonight. Tomorrow. Forever. Guess you had other plans. I flipped it open, empty. The ring wasn't there, still in my pocket. A secret twist I'd savor later. Her sobs filled the air, raw, jagged, but they didn't touch me. Not anymore. The room buzzed, anger, shock, friends circling her, some glaring at me. You didn't have to do this. Tara snapped, voice shrill. I shrugged, cold, done. She did. Then, bang. The door swung open, slamming against the wall. Ethan strode in, suit rumpled, eyes wild, scanning the chaos. Clara, he called, confused, then furious as he saw me. You, he snarled, charging forward. I didn't flinch, stood tall, folder still in hand. Right on time, I said, mocking low. He froze, feet from me, glanced at the screen, his emails, his smug face staring back. What the? He stammered, color draining. Rachel stepped up, fast, slapped him hard across the cheek. The crack echoed, silencing the room. That's for me, she hissed, then turned to me, nodded. Finish it. Clara looked up, tears streaking, reached for him. Ethan, he yanked away, sharp, disgusted. You told him? He snapped, voice breaking. She shook her head, frantic, but he didn't wait, stormed toward the door. Then twist. Mark lunged, grabbed his collar, yanked him back. Not so fast, Mark growled. Clara's cousin, my unexpected shield. You don't walk out after this. I seized the moment, dropped the folder, pulled the real ring from my pocket, held it up. This was hers, I said, loud, clear, to Ethan, to them all. You took it, so take her too. I tossed it, hard, ring clattering across the floor, stopping at his feet. He stared, stunned, then bolted, leaving it there. Clara wailed, collapsing, abandoned by both of us now. The ring lay there, glinting, alone, like a broken promise nobody wanted. Clara's sobs turned shrill, hysterical, friends crowding her, some crying too. Lisa knelt, hugging her, shooting me daggers. You're cruel, she spat, voice thick. I didn't argue, didn't care. Cruel? Maybe. But she'd built this stage. I'd just lit the lights. Rachel watched, arms crossed, satisfied, then slipped me a card. Call if you need me, she muttered, gone before I could reply. I turned to leave, steps slow, deliberate, folder under my arm, empty box in hand. Paul grabbed my shoulder. Matt, wait. But I shook him off, hard. It's done, I said, final, flat, kept walking. Outside. The air hit me. Cold, clean, washing away the stench of her perfume, his arrogance. I breathed deep. First real breath in hours. Felt the weight lift, just a little. Then, tires screeching. A car swerved up. Ethan's, black and sleek. Him behind the wheel, eyes blazing. He rolled the window down, shouted, "You think this is over?" Voice shaking with rage. I stared, calm, unblinking. "For me, it is," I said, turned my back, kept walking. He revved the engine, loud, threatening, but didn't follow. Coward. Like her. My phone buzzed. Clara. "Please, let me explain." I deleted it, didn't read the rest, blocked her number. Then another. "Lisa. She's a wreck. You happy now?" I didn't reply, tossed the phone in my pocket. Happy? No. Free? Closer. The night stretched ahead, dark, quiet, and I walked into it, alone but steady. Days blurred, 2, 3, time slipping past in a haze of silence. I moved out, left the apartment, her stuff, our past, took a cheap motel room across town. The ring sat on the nightstand, unclaimed, untouched, a reminder I didn't need but couldn't ditch. Work called. "Boss gruff, you coming back?" I said yes, lied about being fine. Routine kept me moving. Coffee, desk, home, numb but functioning. Then, a letter slipped under the door, Clara's writing, shaky. "Matt, I'm sorry. I broke us, I know that. Ethan's gone, I ended it. Can we talk?" I read it. Once, twice, felt nothing. No ache, no anger, just empty. I tore it up, slow, let the pieces scatter. Talk. No point. She'd said enough in her silence, her secrets. Rachel called. Unexpected, voice brisk. "Heard she's crashing with Lisa. Messy breakup with Ethan. You okay?" I paused, considered, then yeah. "Thanks, for everything." She laughed, dry short. "Anytime. Take care, Matt." Click. An ally I hadn't planned on, but one I'd keep. The fifth morning, sunrise, pink and gold. I stood outside, coffee in hand, watching the city wake. The ring was gone. Sold yesterday, cash in my pocket, a new start. Revenge hadn't fixed me, hadn't filled the hole, but it had cut the chains. I wasn't her rock anymore, not anyone's, just mine. And that was enough for now.